Everybody's starting on wet weather tyres, but they won't be on them for very long. Coming onto the front straight here at the Glen, it's time to bring the action.
Green, 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 green.
Good start, Newgarden. Look at him on the inside. 3 wide. Newgarden locks up. Can he keep it intact? He does, but here comes Rossi. The pole man retakes the lead.
Look at the field spread out. No track limits. You can go anywhere you want as long as you can hang on to it. Rossi has the point through the S's. I thought Newgarden made a brilliant move. He just couldn't hang on to the exit.
Sato up to second. Will Power and Simon Pagenaud, the teammates together. They're scrambling, trying to get the best line, Paul, into the inner loop for the first time.
Well, you're not going to get through here 3 abreast like these guys are trying in the back. Will Power and his teammates side by side. But look at Rossi. He has stretched out, and Newgarden coming back on Sato again.
Good work there from Scott Dixon as well. Newgarden back to third, then Sato. Here comes Charlie Kimball up into the mix in the green and black car.
And those rain tires, I'm sure, already are begging for relief. This is such high G-forces in the corner, and the tires are going to overheat very quickly.
Helio Castro-Neves ahead of Ryan Hunter-Reay. They climb the hill out of the boot, the toe of the boot, stretch their legs. Here comes Helio.
Helio makes a move on Sato. Ryan Hunter-Reay pops out, gets Sato as well.
There's Graham Rahal now, the next car up on Takuma Sato.
I wonder if Sato's got damage. Look at how slow he's going now.
He's got a big problem. Sato is just flailing.
Massive understeer, it looks like, from Sato. And here we see the difference in setup. Some people opting for full wet, like Tony Kanaan told us. Some people for dry setup. Rossi comes to pit lane.
Everybody's coming.
Busy. We'll have to be careful when we release you.
And guys, no engine power is what I'm hearing for Takuma Sato as everyone comes down pit road to get on the slicks.
Busy pit lane. If it was me, I would have taken another lap and had an open pit, but they're all in. Only a couple of guys have stayed out.
Looks like Max Chilton and J.R. Hildebrand.
Now what's amazing about these pit stops is they will not need any fuel, so you'll see how quickly you see a wing change for Alexander Rossi, but they've got to be so careful as some are feeding in and some are feeding out.
Alexander Rossi beat everybody out, then Joseph Newgarden, Helio Castro-Neves, Ryan Hunter-Reay, and then a drag race. Charlie Kimball beat Scott Dixon out, so Dixon lost quite a few spots.
Newgarden had to wait on his teammate Power to get in the box. I think he might have lost a couple positions. He had to sit and hold, and he was in the clutches of a group of cars that came up. But here's the 2 guys that stayed out. They're going to pit next, and they will have a wide open pit, so there'll be a lot less congestion for them.
Let's take you back and show you that first stop and watch Joseph Newgarden in relation to teammate Will Power.
We see Joseph pulling the pit right here. He's right here, and then you're going to see his teammate. He's ready to go here in a second, and his teammate comes into the pits right here. And then he released him to go, but he lost a couple positions.
It was not a productive stop either for the 9 of Scott Dixon.
No, a lot of congestion, but look at this. That's Castro-Neves has already caught Alexander Rossi, so a terrific outlap for Castro-Neves as Rossi's trying to get tire temperature, and that's why Castro-Neves is on reds, the softer compound. It'll take Rossi 2 more laps to get temperature. This is where you have to be careful on slicks. Watch Rossi and Castro-Neves. They're going to hit a big damn spot right there, and that is treacherous.
Whoa,
Here comes Helio.
Look at the traction Castro-Neves has.
Inside line, Castro-Neves gets it. Charlie Kimball is trying to hustle that car, trying to find some traction.
Everybody getting squirrely. Marco Andretti hanging onto it.
So Piggott pulls in very slowly. He must have a problem there.
I think that might be Hildebrand, who's coming off wet.
Hildebrand and Chilton were the only 2 that did not stop, so they've hit pit lane.
So from 6th to 1st in 1 lap, wets to dries, Castro-Neves in the lead, chased by Rossi and his teammate Newgarden, and Dixon is down to 8th. Look at this, it got to Dixon, going to make a move right here to the outside, forces him to the outside.
Hunter-Reay on the button, try to defend. Hunter-Reay on the harder black compound, Dixon on the softer reds.
Exiting the inner loop.
Dixon's been the fastest man by far all weekend. He's had a bad first 2 laps. He's fallen back now to 4th, so he's got to start marching forward and take control of the weekend again.
And James Hinchcliffe, unfortunately, the Schmidt-Peterson machine has run into some significant problems. Needed to be towed back to pit lane.
Sounded like on the radio he did an upshift and then it did a downshift on its own. We'll get a radio here and an in-car.
Down to second gear.
Oh, that's no good. That's no good for the motor either when it over revs like that, because there's no control.
Ready to go racing again here at Watkins Glen. Let's do it. First caution of the race over.
Guy who's ready to go racing is Newgarden. He's right on the back of Rossi, but a really nice start by Castroneves.
Keep your eye on that white and blue NTT data car for Scott Dixon running fourth. Can he make any inroads on the guy he's fighting with for the championship? RHR, Ryan Hunter-Reay, Simon Pagenaud, Charlie Kimball as they climb the S's.
Scott Dixon is right there on the gearbox of Joseph Newgarden in the orange car. Dixon in the blue and white. Newgarden defends, Dixon to the outside.
Tough to go around the outside here, Paul, under the inner loop, but he's already cleared him.
Not for him. That's the second time he's done it in this race. So now he has gotten ahead of his championship rival. Now he's got to chase down Castroneves.
The red, softer compound tire should start to degrade and give an advantage to Alexander Rossi, who's on the harder black sidewall tire. The drivers were saying that the black tire they thought was the tire to have for the race. Again, with this being declared a wet race to start, the tire rule is out, so you can run any compound you want. And we'll have to see what Scott Dixon does at the first round of pit stops. His pace, Paul, looks pretty good on the reds. He could be really strong on the blacks.
Well, his pace has been really strong all weekend. I think he's got his car dialed in really well, and he's probably got better tire management than the other guys on reds. He's eating away a little bit at Rossi, but not enough to really get close to even try to push to pass.
So everybody pitted on lap 1 to get the wets off the car. We're 13 laps into this stint. We think that a full stint is going to be about 16, 17 laps. So that makes pit stops right around lap 18, 19, 20 in that range.
More drama for Takuma Sato. This happened on the opening lap of the race. And perhaps, Kevin, it's the same problem coming back to plague him.
Yeah, they've been trying to sort out that wastegate problem. They've been working on it, and there's, at best, it never was going to be good enough. But now Sato is just going to pull over. And that's going to bring us to a full course yellow. And we were within about 3 laps of a lot of the leaders getting ready to come in. So we'll see if they go ahead and pit now.
Let's go. Action on pit lane. We start with Katie.
And Ryan Hunter-Reay will be the first to pull into his pit box on my end of pit lane. He's been battling some terrible understeer in turn 1, so he's been using his rear bar to adjust that. Here on pit lane, the crew is going to give him a half a turn of front wing and Firestone reds. Jan?
And this is really interesting because Alexander Rossi, look at that. He's putting on red sidewall alternates, and I can tell you that Dixon is going with blacks. Kevin?
Up front, all the Penske's look like they're going with blacks, and a lightning quick stop for Helio Castroneves. Beats out a charging Alexander Rossi. Castroneves maintains the lead.
Great stop to Ryan Hunter-Reay.
Not a great stop for Scott Dixon. He lost 2 positions again on the pit stop exchange. He made it up, and now he's dropped back again.
And Will Power as well. There's the race. Off pit lane, Helio Castroneves just got out ahead of Alexander Rossi.
First 5 cars on warm tires. Everybody else will be fighting to get tire temperature that just came off pit lane.
Spencer Pigot with that familiar yellow helmet, Max Chilton, and then J.R. Hildebrand set to go back to racing here at Watkins Glen. Let's go. So Pigot, Chilton, Hildebrand, Marco Andretti, and Jack Harvey all out of sequence, those first 5 cars.
How'd you like to be Jack Harvey as we ride on board in the pink car looking out back? You've got all these champions coming at you. His first road course.
Look at Rossi got a nice exit and he got by Castroneves. So those are your effective leaders, not on track, but in terms of pit sequence. As we look out the back of Jack Harvey's car, he's getting a run on him.
He's going to block Rossi up the inside. Rossi took the softer Firestone reds for the restart. Remember, that's where Castroneves got Rossi, was on the flip-flop situation.
Hunter-Reay has gotten by as well. Castroneves.
Hunter-Reay also on reds.
So we know now 100% that your initial lap on reds is going to be quicker than on blacks.
And does that give you enough of an advantage to maintain position as time goes on when the blacks come into their own? It's not enough. That was evident on that last run. with Scott Dixon and with Helio Castroneves. Here we're looking back at Alexander Rossi again on Jack Harvey.
Nice clean move down the inside. A little bit sideways for Jack Harvey.
And Rossi and Hunter-Reay are really showing an Andretti strength here. Once this cycles through, Rossi and Hunter-Reay will be first and second in this race. They've got to remind themselves that Jack Harvey last pitted on lap 12, so don't take too much of a risk as Hunter-Reay goes up the inside, because eventually Harvey's going to have to pit anyways.
You saw it in non-stop. Could you believe it? The quickest car on track, the guy who just set the fastest lap of the race, Alexander Rossi, forced to come in and pit an unscheduled pit. Jan Beekers, tell us more. What's the story at Andretti?
The situation was, we saw that there was some hesitation on the last pit stop, and in fact they did not get all the fuel, so they had to bring him back in. That's why the team was scrambling so quickly. They did change the entire hose, the fuel probe. You could see that the fueler actually had to open it manually to get it filled this time. That's why it was a 12-second pit stop. But the thing that hurts him so much now, he's way out of sequence because he had to pit so early.
And he left the pit box in frustration as well, sideways out of the box.
I would say that if he gets a yellow, he could still make it on one more stop, and he could cycle to the front and luck back into a good finishing position. But pitting under the green, it's so painful. It feels like it takes forever when you have to do that.
Well, that stop did take forever. That was about twice as long as it should have been.
Yeah,
if he had fuel, it should have been a fairly quick stop, tires only, and it was 12 seconds long, which is a lifetime, as we got jilted in.
He was the last one really out of sequence, so the order is Ryan Hunter-Reay, Helio Castroneves, Scott Dixon, and then Marco Andretti, who's 2 laps off sequence compared to the rest of the leading pack, who all pitted on lap 15. Marco pitted on lap 13. Here is Joseph Newgarden on Marco.
You can see these guys, they have got too much downforce on that car. He was on the push to pass, and he couldn't even pull alongside the Andretti car, who's probably running the same level of downforce as Rossi, so they're just too draggy.
Understand there's a caution has come out somewhere.
Well, like you said, this might cycle Rossi back to the front and get him back on sequence. If everybody else pits now, he's already done his stop 2 laps ago.
He'll only be 2 laps out.
Yeah, so this could put him back in position into the lead again, which is a lucky break for him.
Not sure what the yellow is, but it's full course. 2 waving yellows at start finish.
Oh.
And there's your yellow. That's Takuma Sato, who was having a number of issues, and
I think he might have spun down there and was just doing a burnout, leaving.
it's possible.
Because he's up and running again. Of course, Takuma was the cause of the second full course caution when he was stranded out on track out at turn 9.
My first thought was, oh, he had a driveline issue, something expired there. But I think you're right, Paul. That might just be tire smoke.
Team ready to go racing again. End of the 3rd full course caution. Let's go. Familiar side, Alexander Rossi at the front.
Rossi's got clear sailing now, and he's got some cars that are definitely nowhere near as quick in terms of pace throughout the weekend. It's really Castroneves and Dixon that are back in 6th and 7th that can run his pace. So he's got a nice little buffer here for probably the next 15 to 20 laps.
Graham Rahal working on Joseph Newgarden.
And there's the downforce and the drag that Paul's been talking about. Look at Rahal just motoring by, no problem on Newgarden. And as he runs right now, Scott Dixon only 20 points back of the championship lead. And Kevin Lee, we talked about the championship implications. If Dixon's within 20 going to Sonoma, what does that mean for Joseph Newgarden?
I think what we looked at is that he can lose control of this championship. We felt like he was in so much control, but 31 is not that much when you're talking about double points. It's simply this: if your lead is less than, say, 23, well, then you're in a position where if someone like Scott Dixon wins the race and wins all the bonus points, then you can even finish second and not win the championship. And that's where Dixon is at right now. If it finished this way, if Dixon took the bonus points next year and won the race, he would win the championship no matter what Joseph Newgarden did next weekend. 2 weeks out of it.
We may even get to see Chip Ganassi crowd surf again.
What we have now is we have Newgarden with power, who's only a half a second behind him. Do they run in formation? Does Power get the orders now? Hey, Newgarden, we need to run in position here, or does he have an opportunity to pass Newgarden and close that gap for Dixon even more?
I don't think he does get the orders. They're both championship contenders, right? Yes, one's a leader, one's a chaser, but I don't think they do. I don't think the captain would allow that.
Well, and I wonder if the message might be relayed to Newgarden. Hey, Dixon, as he runs right now in third, you know, start turning up the wick here. We need to earn points here. You can't just cruise.
Yeah, here he is. This is Joseph Newgarden. Where is Will Power? Right there.
Right there on his tailpipe. So he's there. No pressure from anybody behind Will Power. So Marco Andretti has gotten by Newgarden. Marco having a good day. He was off strategy, started way in the back, and took that alternate strategy. He's inside the top 7, which would be a great result for him.
And remember earlier, we saw Newgarden trying to make moves on Marco Andretti with the push to pass, but he had too much drag. Newgarden did, going for kind of the rain hybrid setup. So I'm sure right now they're regretting the gamble to expect rain on the track.
Got to think, just because we all know him so well, Will Power, just how badly he beat himself up during this week after what went down at Gateway, spinning on the first lap of the race, crashing and just kissing goodbye so many championship points.
Well, and I'm thinking that Will Power is probably remembering Mid-Ohio earlier, but let's go back, and apparently this is off Twitter. A fan has posted this video as Takuma Sato loops it in the toe and then has to go counter course and 180 the car. Now Rossi is in, 18 laps to go.
And he comes in, Jan, with a 12-second advantage over Max Chilton in second, and Chilton is in.
Yes, and the pit delta, meaning the time he will lose here, is 30 seconds if your fuel flows properly. I've been assured by the team, Ron Edwards says the fuel probe is working properly. It should be disengaged right about here. Yes, it is. A clean stop for Alexander Rossi.
Max Chilton on pit lane means that Scott Dixon is now in the lead, and it's a long stop for Max Chilton, nearly 10 seconds as they got it filled all the way up with Sunoco fuel.
Well, Scott Dixon's got a clear road and about 3, maybe 4 laps more fuels. We got some pressure here. Wow, that was a tricky pass by Pagenaud, but Scott Dixon right now, if he wants to close this gap, he has got to lay down 4 qualifying laps to close the distance on Rossi.
And the entire field is making pit stops already. Ryan Hunter-Reay just choosing the Firestone Blacks for this final stint. Jan?
And Scott Dixon is getting a full load of Sunoco, and he's going with stickered blacks. Kevin?
Leo Castroneves has an easy out, but it's a longer stop for Castroneves. I think they had to put it up on the jack again. The 98, and Rossi goes by Hunter-Reay, and then Castroneves as well. I got screened out a little bit, but it seemed a little bit longer for Castroneves.
Alexander Rossi flew by with a big gap, and that is Castroneves violating the pit exit rule, I think, Paul. Remind me what we heard from Brian Barnhart. I think you have to stay all the way below that yellow line.
Yeah, he definitely popped out. We see Graham Rahal now has a run up at the top of the hill. He definitely popped out and went across that yellow line and through like a hole in the track, it looked like. So
let's show you. Car in question, driver in question. Elio Castroneves. This goes.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Remember, there's actually a line here, and the transponder has to clear that. But I think if you go over the line that early, for sure that's going to be under review. So we'll have to see how race control treats that.
It will be under review, but Townsend, he did, just like you circled there, he caught the line. See, he's outside the line there, but he got over the transponder. And the way that race control has done it this year, we will only officiate on the transponder. I think he's clean.
But isn't the point of the transponder to keep people from going over the line?
That was a little awkward, and it could be the ultimate escape for Elio Castroneves. So if you cycle this back around, PT, this is looking very strong for Alexander Rossi. Let's go down to the pits.
Will Power has the pit out location. He squeezes around Joseph Newgarden, the championship leader in the orange and white car. He's going to have to get around. Will Power coming out. Final stop for the 2 Team Penske cars, and Joseph Newgarden at the same time. And it's a drag race to the line, and now we watch how they blend in.
Joseph Newgarden totally overcooked his pit engine. He got a same thing.
Oh, he gets hit hard by Sebastian Bourdais. The championship leader is in huge trouble.
They're all hitting the pit lane exit wall. He hit the pit lane exit wall.
Wow.
And was on the brakes and got clobbered. Marco Andretti came in and did the exact same thing. He slid wide and hit the pit lane exit wall, and this is massive damage.
I wonder if there's water on the track or just cold tires.
It was Tim Cindric, president of Penske Racing, Team Penske, who asked the question, what happened there? Let's have a look from above. So Will Power raced him hard off pit road, but what happens to the championship leader?
He just understeered into the grass, hit the wall, and then the next car came along and hit him. And if we stay on this shot, watch Marco come hopefully into the picture and does exactly the same thing.
You could see a little puff of right front smoke on all three of these cars. We're locking right fronts. Remember, you come off the pit speed limiter, you get all the acceleration, and we'll watch on board. Listen to Newgarden.
You don't realize coming down here, it's very, very downhill. He's locked up. The tire's locked up going in, and just, oh, big hit from behind.
Watch that line. Oh.
And Newgarden's very lucky he didn't get completely walloped as they went on. Look at all these guys. They're in the racing line.
Heads up and head out.
So it wasn't Marco, that was Kanan that hit the wall. His car looks very similar. So this is very, very steep downhill. It's very deceiving. He just locked it up.
And remember, it was Newgarden last week at Gateway swooping across the nose of Power who crashed on the opening lap. Now Newgarden has the mistake.
It's a very, very similar pit exit to like getting out of the pits in Daytona, you know, in the night. And you come in there and you think, oh, I'm not going very fast, and you end up clobbering the Marco.
And if you think correctly about that, PT, guess who did it? It happens to the best of them. Jeff Gordon did it at night, coming off pit road around that 180-degree turn in the Rolex 24 at Daytona. So here comes a very wounded Penske Chevrolet.
Damage all over, front wings broken, rear wings broken. You got to think the toe's out on it.
All right, this is what Scott Dixon was waiting for, rubbing his hands together because he was going to have to find it on track to try and catch Alexander Rossi. Now he's got a clean, fair shot. Ryan Hunter-Reay's not done with yet either, and there are only 11 laps to go here at the Glen. Let's get back to it.
11 laps is a long way to go. It's a long track, so plenty of time. We know that these two guys are the fastest guys of the weekend, so we've got a great race here.
Andretti, Ganassi, Andretti, Penske, and Rahal, Letterman, Lanigan with Graham, who always runs well here at Watkins Glen. He loves this place too.
And Castroneves is surrounded by 5 Hondas. Castroneves, the lone Chevy up front there. And this will be fascinating to see what Scott Dixon can do with Alexander Rossi. And Rossi has just been so dominant, the fastest lap of the race. And his pace over a long stint has been sensational. Look at Connor Daly trying to mix it up with his teammate.
And I'll tell you what, there's no fuel savings
to go, plus 1 second. 3 to go.
at all going on right now. These two cats are going flat out, turning qualifying laps and streaking away from Ryan Hunter-Reay.
Fastest driver that last lap was actually Castroneves in the top 5. So Castroneves not giving up. He's 2 seconds back of Ryan Hunter-Reay, and he wants one more position as we see Pagenaud trying to get around Max Chilton here.
Again, championship contender, inside move, turn 1, wasn't quite close enough to Max to get it done. Chilton runs a little wide. This will give Simon the run, heading up into the S's.
Not sure Simon, he's on push to pass, but I just don't think he's got the downforce level to get it done on the Ganassi Honda car.
Pagenaud just burned his last second of push to pass with that move. Chilton with 4 seconds left. Meanwhile, Alexander Rossi has been forced to burn a ton of push to pass by Scott Dixon. They're now even. Remember, Rossi had a 40-second push to pass advantage. It's gone. It's even. 20 seconds left between the two of them.
Chilton runs wide there. Pagenaud's all over that. That's a tough place to pass there. That's about 125-mile-an-hour corner.
And that was looming in the background. Carlos Munoz, both ABC supply cars for AJ Foyt Racing, Munoz and Daly.
That move of Pagenaud's was reminiscent of Newgarden on Will Power at Mid-Ohio. The duck left, or duck right, fade left.
Both of the guys are out of push to pass. None left for either of them. So now it's mano-a-mano, no assistance.
For this 200-mile race, you get 200 seconds of push to pass. How you deploy it, it's up to you.
Rossi's pulled away now from Dixon. He's got a little bit more breathing room, so nice little gap as we look out of Dixon's in-car. That's the biggest gap he's had.
Dixon with 13 seconds remaining, Rossi 18 seconds. So Dixon needs to make something big happen through these next 7 or 8 corners to give him a chance on the final lap. And I think Rossi's in a really good position, just managing the gap. He'll know from his team that he's got an advantage on push to pass.
Tell you what, you couldn't have a race that has had more drama than this for a championship leader. So we thought it was going to rain the whole race. We've had a nice, clean, dry race from the start. And man, big drama show today for the Penske team.
Enormous.
And let's make sure we mention the job Ryan Hunter-Reay's done today. Don't forget, it was only 2 weeks ago that he had a 130G crash at Pocono. He still has to be suffering from that massive impact as we take the white flag lap here.
1 to go. That is all less than 3.5 miles. And Alexander Rossi can get his first road course victory in Verizon IndyCar Series competition. He only has 1 win in IndyCar competition, but it's the biggest win you can have, the Indianapolis 500. What a day this has been, not only for Alexander Rossi and the Andretti Autosport team and the Napa 98 squad, because it hasn't all gone their way. They had those refueling issues, and Alexander had to come in off sequence very early in the stint. A caution came out, a really timely caution came out, which aided them, but nonetheless, he has had the speed all day long.
And Paul, I love how Alexander Rossi is finishing this lap with anger. He's not just coasting it in. He wants to prove the point. I belong at the front of this field everywhere we go.
Well, you can't afford to let up on the gas pedal. You can't back yourself up to a guy like Scott Dixon, because he will pounce no matter what lap it is. But a nice, clean finish to the race here for Alexander Rossi.
Alexander Rossi has woven together the perfect race today. It didn't look like it was going his way, but it is now. And the 25-year-old American gets his first road course win. Rossi wins at the Glen. How about that over Scott Dixon? This championship has tightened way up with 1 race to go.
The crew douses him before he's even fully out of the car, recognizing the photographers, recognizing the crew. And one of my thoughts initially is when you look at the box score today, you'll see that Alexander Rossi started on the pole and won this race, but this was much more about that. Alexander. When you said where's that come from, were you talking about the win itself?
No, the champagne in my eyes. I wasn't expecting that, but yeah, also the win. We'll go with that. An amazing job by the whole team today. We had an issue in the beginning, right, with some a fuel thing, but whatever, it doesn't matter. The team recovered. We had the pace to do it. My front ender is on FaceTime right now. He's having a kid, but it's pretty amazing. It's a huge team effort. I've talked about so much how much we've improved, and I'm so happy we're finally able to show that.
But you also had to overcome a lot of adversity. The beginning of the race went great, and then there was an issue on your first pit stop not getting all the fuel. When you got that call on the radio, knowing you had to pit early, you must have thought, oh no, not again.
Yeah, fuel and I don't seem to work in IndyCar. I don't know if I need to spend some time with a fuel rig and like coax it or something, but it's fuel problems. We won a race. It's an amazing thing.
But then you had an opportunity because of a caution to kind of get back on sequence. And both Paul and Townsend were talking about at the finish of the race, once you recovered from that pit stop, you had what every driver wants. You had a one-on-one duel with Scott Dixon with exact same equipment, same level of push to pass. How gratifying that you held off the man they call the master of Watkins Glen.
You know, I don't know. I mean, we had a fast car. I knew we had a fast car because we were hitting a fuel number before the final stop, and we had pace. So I knew he was gonna be pushing like hell at the end, and so it was really 12 qualifying laps, and I had the car to do it. We had time, we had the pace, the performance, the tire life, everything was going our way. So a huge hats off to Andretti Autosport. Thank you to Napa Auto Parts. Thank you to Honda. You know, we're coming really hard for 2018.
Well, he talks about coming hard. He has finished this season incredibly 3 podiums just in these last few races.